Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the second list for List Week 2024, my picks for the 11 best games I played that came out last year. Like I said in the worst games of the year video, I did play a plethora of new titles. That being said, as you can see, it is a top 11, so I did not play any remakes that would have potentially ended up on this list, like your Silent Hill 2s, partially because I've never played the original Silent Hill 2, and I would like to experience that before playing this remake, even if it was getting a lot of praise. I also didn't play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because, again, I haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII in full. The same with the Sonic Generations, Shadow Generations game that came out. I did not get the chance to play that before the year's end. But there were also, that being said, there were also newer games that I did not play that had a lot of buzz, but just did not catch my attention as much as other games that I ended up playing, like your Black Myth Wukongs, or your Dragon's Dogma 2s, or even your Emios, as much as I really kind of wanted to play an M-rated sort of horror, murder-based mystery visual novel. I also skipped that on COD Blops 2, even though I heard it was one of the better CODs in recent memory, because it's still COD. With that preamble out of the way, though, I hope you are excited for this list. Give it a like if you are excited. And let's go ahead and get started the ranking by talking about... You want to talk about victims of the industry? Arrowhead's Helldivers 2 had it all. It had a very engaging, passionate, and unified fan base. Even when this game went to shit, I hadn't seen a fan base so unified in a titular game in a long time. And I think that's partially due to how the game is constructed. But even that construction of the game is so very cool to me. The one game maker versus the millions of potential players coming at you while you shape and evolve this world, throwing different things in the mix with the updates. It just creates this great harmony of design, philosophy, and approach that I think was amazing. I also loved the enemy types, the bugs and the robots, and their, sort of differences amongst them. I like their backdrops. I think that this game looked great. I loved the weapon selection. I loved the sort of special attack selection as well, the things that you can call in to attack with you. I loved just how fun this was to play with friends. Everyone was collectively building towards this ultimate goal of defending Super Earth. I thought that the, whole sort of Starship Troopers comedy shtick side of things was also kind of neat. It was funny, I thought it was a funny game that scratched an itch I hadn't had scratched in a long time in gaming, at least in this sort of way, even if it was still kind of different. Then Sony had to go and get greedy and start doing things that the player base didn't like. They then, in, again, glorious splendor, through the meta, just started throwing matches, just stopped doing the objective, and really just making the game unfun to play. And so a lot of people stopped playing. People do still play it. I played it recently to see if it was still really fun. They added a whole nother enemy type and sort of biome ecosystem, and I thought it was fun to play some matches in that, even if playing with randos, while no one's throwing the game anymore, it's just not, it doesn't feel as unified, and I just kind of felt like I was running through these huge maps, not really enjoying my time, because I was sort of feeling the consequences of my teammates and the chaos of the world, and it just wasn't a great experience. I feel like this would still be fun to play with friends, but it's a game that you now have to have a reason to play, in my opinion, because it's just not popping off in the way that it was when it first came out. I do still like this game, though, a lot, and I wanted to put it on this list. I just ended up putting it at the very bottom. My whole shtick with this was just going to be me showing off the dumb shit I did with my friends, and now I'm still ranting about how shitty the parts of the game industry are. Fuck! Somebody give me something good! I know usually when making these of the year lists, people like myself will always go like, oh, this list was so hard to make. I didn't know it was going to end up on the bottom. But for me this year, these bottom couple were really in a fight for each other. I had 3 to 4 games I was sort of going round and round with to put on the bottom spot, and while Helldivers ended up in the 11th spot, it was very much strongly considered for the 10th spot, but I ended up putting Mario & Luigi Brothership in the 10th spot, partially because above the other two that missed the cut, it doesn't feel like it truly fumbles in how it tells its story. Even if it does have some in-game setbacks that sort of feel like they're drawing out the runtime to a degree, I think that the overall presentation of this, the message of unity above all. Honestly, a lot of the visual charm in this sold me on this game. You know, I haven't played a Mario and Luigi game since Superstar Saga, but I really adore that game, and I think that the way that they presented Concordia and how you and Luigi have to go across each island and unify them was a really fun adventure to go through. I think that the combat is still as tight as ever. And I feel like, you know, maybe it's a little simplified, so I don't know if I would love this as much as some of the direct sequels to Superstar Saga, like Bowser's Inside Story or the other DS ones. But I still think that this is at least a solid-ass time. I think that it's cute. I think that this series' art style translates pretty well into 3D. The other character designs all lean into the electricity shtick that's going on pretty well. And honestly, I just think this game was pretty fun. And amongst the many late in the year Nintendo releases that were dropped, I feel like not enough people gassed this one up as much as they should have, because it was honestly a pretty fun time. While I still spent a lot of my year on my Ken grind in Street Fighter 6, I'm still loving that game. I think that the DLC rollout has been fun to watch. I think that it's been nice to see a game that I love a lot get support that I think is pretty solid all around. I'm just still having a blast with that game. This year also saw the continuation of a few fighting franchises I'm more of a tourist to. Tekken 8 is one of those that's ending up on this list, and playing that game's story felt like the Game of Thrones nights I went to on some of my trips to Philly late in the show's run. I could tell the stakes were high and there were established relationships, but I was pretty ignorant to a lot of it. I had some experience with the Tekken series growing up. I played Tekken 3 on the channel, and the tag tournament games are always a great time. The story of the family quarrels of the men of the Mishima family and the G Corporation is still arguably the thing in the series I know the least about. So when it comes to the nuance in the story, it was mostly lost on me. Part of me feels like I should fix that, but I also know myself and aren't sure when that would ever happen. The game itself is fun as hell, though. The gameplay is just what I remember from Tekken mostly, just with some newer mechanics that honestly kind of gave me the same feeling picking up Street Fighter did. The roster is a nice variety of characters too, and the way the story progressed was a fun ride, given I don't play these games often. That story also giving you the chance to test out a good portion of the roster in a different but organically done manner. It was nice to see this series show where it had evolved to. It's in the same breath as where parts of the scene are, but deviate in ways that are nice. It's also a AAA game that uses its budget to look pretty damn good. This game pits devils against one another in all of its world-shattering splendor, and it looks gorgeous. Even if it's got gross modern UI and the ugly big-budget ad pop-ups on launch were really fucking annoying, it's kind of worth it to get my cheeks clapped more than not still at the end of the day. Every year I talk about a justification for the January release, and while there's a couple that could have been the case, especially in the worst and best list, there is a game that came out in December that I decided to play, and still play a lot now, actually, as of recording this. I'm amidst being very hooked on it. And the only reason why I even tried it is because I recently played Overwatch again for the first time in a long time. The thing is, I had a lot of fun in Overwatch Classic. I didn't want to play Overwatch 2, though, because that's just not the same. So instead of going to that kind of different, I played Marvel Rivals, because it was coming out in December. And I'm honestly having a lot of fun with it. Is it as good as Overwatch? No. But it's the closest any game in its style has gotten to giving me the same feeling that that game did. I'm engaging with it in the same way that it was a game like Helldivers 2, only I can play this by myself, and I can play comp, and I can, do the things that I did in Overwatch on my own, have my mains, have my side characters that I try as well. I can have a menagerie of people that I can play around with, and just generally feel the game out. And I think that the gameplay loop is close enough as well. Everything is close enough for me for now. And that's not to say that I don't have faith in this game for continuing to keep me invested, because I've been playing some of the new characters that they recently added. I like those. I'm excited for the other new characters. I've been engaging with the side stuff that they want you to do. It's just got me hooked in the ways that it wants me to, and I'm having fun with it for now. It is also fun to play with friends, but I do think that it's a nice balance of being able to do both that I really appreciate about this. And I honestly think that as far as free games go, if you can get me to put 60 hours into it, like, off the rip, you got something solid on your hands, that's all I'm going to say. While Rachel and I certainly were into the nostalgia trip of Mario Party Superstars, we were left wanting a bit more. I'd say we've definitely been given more than a bit more with Super Mario Party Jamboree, but I'm certainly not complaining. While Rachel and I have put a decent amount of time into the game, admittedly, we have done barely anything else other than the main party mode outside of a night where we did some mini-game play and a night that she played the rhythm game with some friends. I think that the ways that they've added depth within the boards of that classic game mode create a dense but hype experience that's kept me coming back to that and not even trying most of the other what the game has to offer. In some ways, it feels like them reworking ideas from the last Super Mario Party game, and I'm into where they take them, especially in the realm of allies. The splashes of nostalgia in the vein of classic maps and minigames were fun too. The one thing I'm also a bit surprised of is how good the computers are. While Rachel and I have had our fair share of 4-player games with friends, the AI isn't a bad substitute when we just want to play with each other. Admittedly, I thought I was going to enjoy this a lot, because I do think Super Mario Party is a bit underrated, but even my expectations have been exceeded. I've heard some of the other game modes are also pretty fun. I've heard that you have Pro Controller minigames aside from the Joy-Con minigames, so they really went all out in this game, and I think that, like, people should not sleep on Super Mario Party Jamboree. It is a genuinely great entry in the franchise.
And the game of the year is... Astrobot!
It's my 6th best game of the year, but pop off, I guess, Game Awards. I do really think Astrobot is a fantastic experience. I think that as far as showcasing the PlayStation 5's tech similarly to Astrobot's Playroom, it does so, but like, to the nth degree. I've never described a game as tactile so much before, and I mean that in like a physical sense. Like, similarly to parts of Playroom where it shows off the controller's tech, it does that to a higher caliber on top of having a really fun platformer to do all of that with. You know, I haven't had this much fun completing a game like this in a long time, and I really liked doing it in this, or have liked doing it. I haven't quite finished it yet as of recording this, but I'm pretty deep in the game, and I just feel like I'm tearing through it, but having a blast in the same process. Similarly to a game like Mario Galaxy, a game I've never played, there are these levels that have these gimmicks, and those gimmicks also show off the visual tech well, and also just, again, add to that tactile feeling in some degrees. I really enjoy the cutesiness of this, and I like the challenge. The side stuff, I feel like, is just as good as the meatier main stuff. There's some levels that have some shticks within those that are also a nice through line to see. While I do love PlayStation, it is not a console that I have the same deeper love that I do, say, like Sega or Nintendo, where some of the icons lost on me. But the ones that I did like, I thought were really good. I think that if you like 3D platformers, you should play this. It's worth all the praise it's getting. It's just my 6th favorite game I played in 2024. Something I've been loving seeing crop up in the indie scene over the last handful of years are these indie horror titles that aim to adapt that love for the early 3D polygonal era of games. What separates a game like SFB Games' Crow Country above some of those recent excursions is the way it adapts that nostalgia for a game like Resident Evil and builds upon gameplay ideas from that era while nailing the atmosphere and timepiece well to boot. The puzzles in this amusement park have such personality that transitions to your more familiar underground lab fare with grace. It features a great use of set piece with the music, and the various notes throughout along with the characters that come to play as the game progresses are what engrossed me through as the horrors got more and more grotesque. The soundtrack makes those horrors stand out in full, and there were some moments where the game shifted in tone suddenly that fully submerged me in once that music hit. The deeper corners of the horrors within are what stuck with me as the story got farther and farther into the rear view. The real timeline of events when looking back give way to an even better focused world that made me love the game more. If you're a fan of horror, more specifically body horror and otherworldly horrors, the 90s and B-movies specifically, I'd give this a chance. While indies have been popping off this year, I hope this one isn't slept on. It's brief, but it absolutely nails its tone hard enough that it's gotten me wanting to go back and actually complete it with the post-game challenge. I talked about this in yesterday's video, but Ubisoft made a lot of stupid fucking decisions last year. The one I might be pissed off the most about, though, was the disbanding of the dev team of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This game did well enough in its year that they announced a fucking roguelike game in this series. They haven't cared about Prince of Persia in a long time. They've been teasing that Sands of Time remake for too fucking long. You guys already know I love Metroidvanias, and I love how this game approaches a Metroidvania, but what you may not know is that I'm also a pretty big fan of the Prince of Persia series to some degree. Like, I really loved the Sands of Time and the Warrior Within growing up. I never played the Two Thrones, but I have bought it as an adult, and like I said in the Tekken part, I'm just bad about catching up on games. And The Lost Crown is the type of Metroidvania I really enjoy that I don't think gets done quite as well enough. I love Hollow Knight, and it's a really good example of this type of game to some degree, but I feel like as far as taking a more Castlevania approach to how you build your arsenal and building the map in a way that sees you weaving back through areas with intention, I really enjoyed. It's also got some wild genre improvements that are so simple. I'm amazed they've never been thought of before, but I love this game's approach to them. I recently bought this game physically because I was cheated out of a trophy in it, and I'm not mad about playing through this game again. I thought that the story was fun. It had a fun mid-game twist that threw your arc in a different direction that was fun to see Sargon come back through. I thought that your evolving combat and traversal palette wove together well. The boss fights were lit as fuck, and it used its budget well enough to have some fun things in the vein of cutscenes mid-fights and the like. I liked this game a lot. I thought that as far as like big budget gaming, while not popping off well this year and was really getting shat on, this was one of the shining moments where it honestly kind of rocked, similarly to Astrobot. In my original script before the team was disbanded, because I've been scripting this video for a long time, I talked about hope for this dev team and seeing what they came up with next, and while they may be working on other projects and still a part of Ubisoft, sometimes there's just a great magical group of people that can keep making good shit if you let them. Ever since I was a child, reading The Hardy Boys, watching Scooby-Doo, and playing Clue on our family PC, I've always loved a good mystery. That aha moment is a better shot of serotonin than most sources of it. There hasn't been a better mystery, far deeper and more incredibly satisfying to solve, quite like Billy Basso's Animal Well, a game that ambiguously but expertly creates this aptly named well of unease and wild animals. It might be a game with pixel graphics, but the focus on atmosphere with its minimal soundtrack and use of lighting helped cement me harder as I climbed around better than many games in recent memory. The lack of dialogue and approach to level design and exploration, where every answer is shortly followed by a handful of follow-up questions, creates this incredibly alien world to comb through. The main story feels like such a stark fraction to the real cryptic mystery that lies beneath the first ending surface. While trying to get what I thought was the true ending, I'd learned the actual truth, that this game is the void. The farther down I fell, the more I became enveloped in the ARG ideas and loved seeing how each tool's other uses came to light. It's even got some deeper secrets that might have been discovered too soon. There's an active source to find out if this game has been completely mined of what's within its impressively small and file-sized walls, and it still hasn't. As far as captivating my investigative side that gaming can bring out, even if it's at the number 3 spot, nothing else did quite like this. It was the only thing to break my addiction to a game higher on the list. This game rules. Billy Basso, you fucking rule! When I was finishing the SpongeBob movie game over the summer, it was partially because 2004 was a long time ago, but it's also partially because I was itching to play Aggro Crabs and Other Crab's Treasure and knew it'd be a few months before I could scoop it. Clearly, with its placement here in the list, you can see I think this game rips. I dip my toes into the 3D Souls-like genre a lot from time to time, and I did a couple times over 2024. Another Crab's Treasure takes that Souls-like design approach pretty directly, but funnels that very vertical feeling dive into the ocean's depths with a story that is equally as bleak, but far more comedically driven in tone that kept me hooked more so than, honestly, a handful of other Souls-likes. I like that the level design blends the exploration with the 3D platformer focus it uses to stand apart from the bevy of games it shares a genre with. The shells and how they change combat add a lot to the pot. Its parry is a fun shifted approach that suits the character. The fishhook was a nice tool used in both gameplay and traversal styles. The soundtrack slaps. Hell, I had a moment similar to the one I experienced in my first Elden Ring playthrough, where I got deeper appreciation for its bells and whistles. The other jokes and parodies in the world also got some fun chuckles out of me. At a time when not only the gaming industry, but the world at large still feels as bleak as Isaac Brock made it sound 20 years ago, games like this remind us that we'll all float on even if by its end the really bleak undertones come around past the irony and the well-crafted comedic edges go to just a very real place. It's honestly probably, though, a personal favorite game in recent memory. It makes my number one all the more wild, but I really fucking adore this game, and I feel like if you like games like this, you should play it. When a card game is good, I develop a problem around it. It's why I don't keep up with Magic the Gathering. It's what's contributed to the many hours I put into Slay the Spire on my Switch the first year I had it. To further prove that point, I quickly became as addicted to Local Thunk's Balatro as much, if not more so than that. Hell, as I'm writing this part of the script, I'm also playing the game. I played it while recording for my mixtape. I played this game via touchscreen while cuddling with my now wife like an old person tapping the slots in Vegas. The game's broader aesthetics, like the weird static frame around the edge, along with the CRT inspiration, add to an immersion that I really dig. It, in tandem with the other tapestry, make for a simple but very effective way to keep me engrossed and going one more time. At its core, it's a numbers game, but it makes numbers fun. I called it Yahtzee with poker cards in my roguelike run episode, and I still think that's a relatively apt comparison. It's a game with an instant restart button and automatically speeds up a combo if it goes on for long enough. It's built to be an addictive wormhole. The calm soundtrack is the piece that brings me true serenity, which is nice, because I'm sure Rachel hears it while she's sleeping, and I'd rather something calming going on if she's going to hear it faintly near her. Every new joker unlocked, adding to my intrigue as I dig deeper. And I know I already have other far horizons I'm still building to, but I'm excited to build to them. It's a game whose bait I took hard, and I'm glad it came out on the Switch first because I don't do games on my phone. Even for as much as I've loved this game, I'm still keeping to that. As far as typing this part of the script, I'm at 25 hours of playing. I've started playing the game on 4x speed a few weeks after starting the script, and I think it's made my dilemma of being hooked on this worse. My total time as of recording this part is over 95 hours. I adore this game. Even if Animal Well broke my addiction to it for at least the greater part of a month or so, I was quickly back on my bullshit after getting the first ending and working towards the second ending. Best game I played all year. All hail Balatro. And those were the games that I loved playing last year. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree? Let me know those thoughts in the comments down below. If you did like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. I drop 2 to 4 vids a week depending on what I've got going on. Again, it is my list week, and tomorrow is when we're going to start the music portion of my list week by going over my favorite singles I spun over the last year. So if you're excited for that, come on back tomorrow for that. But if not, either way, thank you for watching this. I'm going to go out and fire rack you guys with these situations. And I'll see you another day.